Mary Sue Blitch was born in Scotia, California on November 16, 1930, to Rufus Joseph Blitch, who was the traffic manager at Pacific Lumber Company, the largest redwood lumber company in the world. Her mother was Evelyn Elizabeth Wolfe. She was a school teacher in Scotia, and R.J. Blitch interviewed her as he was on the school board. He fell in love with her. Mary Sue won the beauty contest at 2 years old. She took piano lessons, as you can see the sheet music signed by her from 1942 to 1945. She also took tap dance lessons while attending elementary school. See her in the front row, fourth from the right. Her school was grades 1 to 8. Mim, a nickname because her sister Peggy couldn't say Mary Sue and called her Mimmy Doo. It went from that to Mimmy and then Mim. Started school in first grade because there was no kindergarten, which was started the year after. Mary Sue grew up living in a house that was right next to the schoolyard. Because her dad was traffic manager, their home was slightly larger than the others. No one owned their home, as Pacific Lumber owned them all. The Blitch's home was one of the very few with a phone. She took a bus to Fortuna High for grades 9 to 12. She got A's in all of her business courses that were taken because her father disapproved of women going to college. You can see the picture of her with her business club. She's in the second row from the front and the third one from the right. Mem was also in the senior play and graduated in 1948. The summer after high school, she worked as a secretary for the Department of Health Sanitation Engineers in Eureka. The following summer, she worked for the county health department and the county health doctor. At the health clinic, she followed the doctor around and took shorthand, which she had learned in the Eureka area. She quit to attend Humboldt State. She attended Humboldt for 2 years and says, "I didn't learn a darn thing." She was sorry she didn't take accounting. Her 2-year program enabled her to quickly get a job. Christmas vacation, her second year of college, she spent working for a lawyer doing office work. She loved all 3 jobs. She wanted to be a medical secretary, but it never happened. Then after the 2-year business program, she went to work for the Division of Highways and worked in the steno pool in Eureka. She started to date Frank when she was at Humboldt State, but they broke up. When she worked at the Division of Highways, she saw Frank, and he was an engineer there for the summer. It was at lunch that she saw him, and her heart went up to her throat. He was a freshman at Humboldt and then went a year in the Navy. He came back as a sophomore, and Mim was a freshman. After that summer, Frank went to Berkeley to go to school. Soon they were married and lived together in an apartment in Berkeley, where Mim then worked for a professor of biostatistics and 2 math teachers at UC Berkeley. She worked there a school year and then gave birth to her firstborn, Debbie, who was born in Berkeley on May 20th, 1952. After Debbie's birth, Mim's dad, Rufus J. Blitch, wrote her a letter that said, "Dear Mary Sue, gee, I was glad to hear that you are the mother of a little baby girl. You know I was always partial to baby girls and was so glad that you were a little girl baby when you were born. I can hardly wait to see little Deborah Kay. Hope you can come home for a while this summer. My best regards and congratulations to Frank. Love from your dad." They rented a house for 2 years in Albany, where Chris was born on February 21st, 1955. Then they bought a house in El Cerrito. Mim was a stay-at-home mom, busy with the raising of her 2 kids. She was a den mother for Chris for a few years and was a Girl Scout leader for Debbie for a few years. She started the troop as there wasn't one, and she got a friend to help. They had returned from living in Fresno just 1 year, and there were no openings in the Campfire Girls, so Mim decided to start a Girl Scout troop. Each girl had a different role, as Mim believed in involving each of the girls and not doing all of the work herself. Mem drove Debbie to Berkeley weekly for her ballet lessons and into Richmond for Debbie's guitar, piano, and ukulele lessons. She made all of Debbie's clothes as well as many of her own. On Easter, she also made herself a suit and a matching hat. She had just become a new Christian and felt grateful to the Lord for God letting her take the hat class. Mem was vice president and then president for the El Cerrito JCettes. The vice president was the hardest because she was responsible for planning all of the socials. The first one was a beatnik party, and she had a big mattress at the foot of the entrance stairs. Mem and Frank also had many parties in their El Cerrito basement. One time she had a money raiser where they provided dinner for everyone and charged $5 a plate. That was a lot of work. Aunt Louise had just died, Frank was out of town, and Cousin Bonnie came to help. She and the family went on many family vacations. They boated with Billy Rowe's family, camped with the Kenny Burnt family, as well as Joyce and Clay Carlson. They went to a ranch with the McDonalds. Then they started to go up to Richardson's Grove. Mem gave great birthday parties and made birthday favors from cigarette boxes, little wagons to hold the candies. She was always afraid of hurting people's feelings, so they invited everyone on the whole block. They were big parties. She became a Christian when she was 31. She left Hillside Community Church, where she taught Sunday school for the kindergartners. Her conversion experience happened in her own kitchen while she was preparing dinner. She saw a bright light. She was standing at the kitchen sink doing a few dishes, and she said, "Oh my goodness, here I've been thinking how I can be good when I should have been thinking how to help other people. How egotistical can you get?" The room got bright with light, and thinking that the stove was on fire, she turned and was born again. After she found out what Christianity was all about, she knew she had to get her kids out of Hillside Community Church, as they did not believe the gospel. Frank had already left Hillside. It also had to be a church that the kids would enjoy attending, as Debbie was a teenager. The first church they visited was the EV Free, as a friend of Debbie's, Marta, attended there. They loved it, so that solved that problem. Mem cried all the way through the service. She then saw an ad for Bible Study Fellowship. It was her chance to make a choice to attend a Bible study. She ended up finishing the 5 years of Bible Study Fellowship, and a friend from the EV Free, who was in child evangelism, asked her to go to a child evangelism class. In the Bay Area, you had to take a Bible study doctrine course to work with child evangelism. So then, since she had a friend praying that she should have a class, she told the Lord that if someone called her on the phone and asked her to attend a child evangelism fellowship training class, she would take that as a sign that she should go. It was the same person, so she didn't know if that counted or not. She went, and it was wonderful. They taught a 5-day club over Christmas in her house, and Mem had to go door to door inviting kids to come. She was so embarrassed at that time about being a Christian, and she claimed the verse Romans 1:17, "I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation." She said that to herself as she walked her neighborhood. There were a whole bunch of kids who came, and most of them accepted the Lord. From then on, she taught child evangelism classes in her home. Debbie agreed to teach the lesson, and Mem taught the missionary story. Mem was also in charge of getting the prizes, creating the songs, and cutting out the flannel graph figures. She was also the memory verse keeper. Really, she did it all, while Debbie only taught the story. After moving to Southern California, she continued to teach child evangelism classes there as well. In El Cerrito, she typed the church bulletin for several years and then taught junior church. Their last few years in El Cerrito brought forth 2 new babies. Stephen Gregory was born August 20th, 1966, around the same time as Junie's Tracy and Peggy's Mary. Randy was born on June 27th, 1968. They were now a family of 6. Soon after, they moved to Placentia in 1969. They rented a house for 1 year, and then the home in El Cerrito finally sold, and they were able to purchase a home. The payment for their new Placentia home was only a little over $300 a month because they assumed the previous owner's home. It had a pool, 4 bedrooms, and an office. Mim loved this house. Mim was a member of the Disneyland Squares with most of the Merry Hearts in her Sunday school class. Mim and Debbie soon became vegetarians in Southern California, as well as Randy and Steve. Mim taught the 2s and 3s in the church in Yorba Linda that they had helped start, which was a branch of the Fullerton Free Church. She had 3 wonderful helpers that let her work with the kids. She would get on her knees to help them. Later, she found out that one kid thought she was Jesus. She was one of a few who kept records for the Sunday school, and she and Frank's Sunday school class was called the Merry Hearts, and they would go on quite a few excursions planned by Frank. The kids went to the Little Church in the Hills Christian School in Mount Bullion. Mim was told that Randy actually taught his teacher in the Christian school. Mim was in a ladies' Bible study in her house where weekly as many as 10 ladies would show up. Mim had a kids' club in her home her last year in Mariposa. She taught a child evangelism story. She won first place for her needlepoint piano bench cover at the Mariposa County Fair. She made whole wheat bread every week for the family, which was not appreciated by her children. They would trade their sandwiches at school. Mim and Frank started attending the EV Free Church in Fresno. Mim's job there was to go up after church and get the information from the large 4th and 5th grade Sunday school class. She would send cards to those who were absent or if it was their birthday, and she would sign their teachers' names. Mim was in a wonderful women's Bible study that she loved and was sorry to leave. They spent a year church hopping and finally settled on Northwest, where she found another good women's Bible study. They were studying Hebrews, and she cross-stitched the tabernacle that hung in her kitchen. Then they had a big conference, and she shared her cross-stitch. A few ladies from Merced saw it and wanted the pattern. Mem then tweaked it and shared the pattern with them. This started all of her work with cross-stitch. She cross-stitched many Bible verses. She would buy patterns, change the colors, and add Bible verses. She also started teaching lessons to kids at Amber Way Apartments, which had been adopted by their new church, Northwest. She started using all of her child evangelism stories with the songs that she had made in El Cerrito, though she made a bunch more. That was fun, she said. She would color them while Frank was watching television. She did it for 2 years and then her health failed. Frank would take Mim on lots of little trips where she would take pictures. Then she would find verses to go with the pictures. She also got into word publishing and would make terrific cards for everyone. She also started writing devotionals almost daily. She had almost 8 different devotionals. She always hoped she'd find a publisher. During her years at Northwest, she attended a small group Bible study called Salt Group, which met in individual homes. They took turns leading. Mem assumed leadership and picked out the studies. She created her own curriculum that she created over at least 10 years. She was always a handcrafter. She would crochet doll clothes for her grandkids. She also sewed badges on the grandkids' Awana outfits. She crocheted lots of Afghans for many. After Frank died in 2011, Mem moved to the Woods, a mobile home park. She faithfully attended Northwest on Sundays and her Monday Bible study at the Woods. She had back surgery and a complete hip replacement. These two things did not stop her from getting around. She went everywhere with her walker. She had a passion for Jesus and a passion for health. She took every product that was ever created. She felt folks were unhealthy because they did not take what she took. They questioned everything, and she questioned nothing. After Trevor's wedding, she moved to Wisconsin, where she lived 5 more years until she was 92. She did many things while living there. She went to the Minnesota State Fair. She participated in community fitness to work out. She attended Whitehall United Methodist Church, and she visited the Patty Bayfield home numerous times. She also saw her great-grandchildren quite a bit. She attended both Flossie's wedding and Nathan's wedding while living there. She had a stroke which caused vascular dementia, and while she was bothered that she was forgetting things, she still knew her 4 kids up to the end. 5 days before she went to see Jesus, she beat Deb at rummy. On a Wednesday, she fell while thinking she was going to the kitchen. It was decided that because she was in a wheelchair, her legs should not be mended. Wednesday and Thursday, she was alert, and Friday and Saturday, she slept. We talked to her and watched Hallmark movies, believing she could hear us. Saturday afternoon, Steve Jones and Deb were there. Saturday night, Deb went back and watched another Hallmark movie while doing her Christmas cards. She prayed with Mom at 8 o'clock and told her she was releasing her to go be with her family in heaven. At 9 o'clock, we got the call that Mom had passed. It's a wonderful feeling to know that Mom is with Jesus. After all, it was Jesus who appeared to her so long ago in that El Cerrito kitchen. Mom is singing and praising Jesus right now. She is with those who have gone on before her. Sue Ann, Tandy, Trevor and Karen, Peggy and Frank, her parents, and her husband Frank. Praise the Lord.